Welcome to the Healthy Relationships Initiative podcast. Our goal is to provide information and tools to help you build happier, healthier, and safer relationships of all kinds. To learn more about HRI, please visit www.guilfordhri.org and check us out on social media at GuilfordHRI.
Hello, and welcome to today's Healthy Relationships Initiative Relationship Booster Program. We're glad that you're here with us. My name is Christine Murray, and I'm the Director of the Center for Youth, Family, and Community Partnerships at UNC Greensboro, as well as the Director of the Healthy Relationships Initiative. The Healthy Relationships Initiative is a partnership between UNC Greensboro and the Phillips Foundation, and our mission is to promote happy, healthy, and safe relationships of all kinds. We'd love for you to check out our website at guilfordhri.org or connect with us on social media at guilfordhri to learn more and check out some of our other upcoming programs. Before we get started, I wanted to run through a couple of sort of housekeeping or logistical pieces for our program for today. We do have a chat room available that is the place for you to submit questions that we can ask of our featured expert and bring into the conversation this morning. So please do feel free to write those in there. The best way to submit those is to direct those to our moderator, Camila Dos Sanchez. And just keep in mind that before the program ends, please take a moment to fill out the feedback form to let us know what you liked about today's program as well as how we can improve. And at this right time, Camila will be sharing the link for that in the chat room. The topic for our program today is parenting a child with special needs. And our featured expert for today is Nancy Micka. And so, Nancy, if you would please go ahead and give a brief introduction to yourself and why this topic is of interest.
Sure, Christine. Thank you so much for inviting us. We're thrilled to be here. Well, first and foremost, it's because I am the parent of a child with special needs, of 4 wonderful grown boys, and our oldest son has a chromosome anomaly called 18. So I've learned so much about parenting from him, but also it's what I studied. I have a bachelor's in sexual education with a minor in early childhood and my master's in educational leadership. So I've taught in a preschool special needs program for many years, and then I was a school principal of a self-contained school. I've been with Family Support Network for well over 20 years, and so I've had a rich base of experience. I'm learning so much from them.
And so for those who aren't familiar with the Family Support Network, can you tell us a little bit about what your organization does?
Sure, I would love to. So the Family Support Network, our mission is providing support, education, and experience. The families will have a child who is actually in the unit or a child of any age, any diagnosis. We do that through a variety of programs. We have 4 wonderful parent groups. We have a great program called Kids Club for kids in K through 5. That has brother and sister special events for families, and mainly helping families get connected with resources so that they know what's out.
Great. No, that's great. It sounds like a really helpful organization for families in our community. And also, I really appreciate that you brought in some of your personal experience too. And it just sounds like this is just your life's work and your life's mission to kind of take what you've learned and help families.
Absolutely.
So, well, great. Well, I can't wait to learn from you today about this topic of parenting a child with special needs. So, we do know that this is a really important topic, and it's one that doesn't get a whole lot of attention. So, to get us started, what would you like the audience to know about the experience of raising a child with special needs?
Well, you quickly find out when you're a parent that it is the most rewarding job you will have, and at the same time, the most challenging role you'll ever have. Having that child in your family will shape your family in ways that you never imagined and teach you so much about strength. And you definitely learn quickly how to be an advocate. Even if you are an introvert and a very quiet person growing up, which I was, it really forces you so that your child can have the very best quality.
And so it sounds like it's an experience that has a lot of rewards and a lot of maybe unique kind of challenges. but that for a lot of parents, it really presents a lot of opportunities for them not to only support the growth of their child, but it's a growing experience for them as well. What are some of the other ways, you mentioned kind of becoming an advocate, what are some of the other ways you think parents grow through this experience?
Well, when you first get a diagnosis, whether it's at birth or a little bit later, this flood of emotions, right? There's fear and panic, loneliness, anger, and especially if it's when their child is born, mixed with those dreams that you had for your child, right? That you thought this would be an experience of just joy. So you just learn very quickly how to kind of handle this overwhelming amount of emotions and come out of it with a clearer picture of your family.
So let's talk a little bit more about that sort of initial stage too, because depending on whether it's something that happens right at birth or if it might be a need that emerges over time, what are some of the common experiences that families have as they sort of navigate an initial diagnosis or an initial sort of just realization that things are going to be different in their family?
Sure. Very often, as a parent, you feel like your whole world has been turned upside down. Again, like I said, that dream, you have to go through that grieving process right there is very important to recognize that you are grieving the loss of what you imagined your family would look like and how it would function. And you very quickly learn to kind of forge a new path and a new dream. Not necessarily a worse dream, it's just a different dream. So navigating that and just knowing that.
And so in terms of kind of that grief too, I'm curious if that's something that you find some parents feel a sense of guilt about or like it's wrong, like if they have their child and they're sort of grieving this, that it's not what they were expecting.
Yes, very often we feel very, very guilty or just not, did I cause this or should I have a better attitude about it? And especially in those young years, I remember, my son is global. I remember always wishing he were just a little bit higher functioning, that his fine motor skills were a little bit better. And you can get so caught up in that. Today, comparison is the thief of joy, right? So it really takes you stepping back. It takes a while, years, I would say, for you to get, for a lot of families to get past that, because you just want your child to have a good future. You want them to be happy and productive. And so you're looking around, just like with your typical kids, you want them to be as bright as they can and productive as they can. Child with special needs. In those early years when your child is struggling and you don't know where they're going to land, those can be difficult.
We always try to focus on a lot of kind of practical takeaways in these online relationship boosters, and it sounds like one real practical starting point is just realizing that it's okay to grieve. It's okay to have, maybe mixed emotions about it. And I would think, personally, with my counseling background, I would think that families that sort of try to brush those feelings aside or say, well, I shouldn't feel this way, I need to just accept it, that actually can make it harder
to
accept. And one piece, before we kind of move on, I would kind of in terms of the experience, since we are a healthy relationships initiative, what are some of the possible sort of experiences with family relationships, and then also how families might interact with other families or other, even if it's neighbors, people who don't have an experience of a child with special needs?
Yeah, so for families who have a child with special needs, in addition to your own feelings about your child, right, now you have to understand, what does my child need in the medical? What about in the school setting? What about out in their community? What about with our parents? It's such a learning curve and so much to learn. So I think being connected and those positive social supports makes huge difference in families. So we know that if families have positive social support, they have a good understanding of their child's condition, they really understand what's happening, and they know how to get connected or where to find help and find resources. Those are the families that are going to be resilient. That's not to say they're not going to have rough times, but they can bounce back easier, right? Because they have those.
Okay, so those three components again, because that seems like a really important point, is having good social support, good knowledge about the child's condition, and then also knowing the resources in the community, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Those are three important pieces, and it sounds like probably if those three pieces are in place, not to say that it's going to be,
right, a walk in the park,
or walk in the park, but probably to say that those are the families that are probably going to navigate some of the challenges more successfully. So let's talk about a little bit more about what some of those challenges might be. So what are some of the challenges that are associated with raising a child with special needs? Some common ones that you've seen in your report.
Right, yeah, and we talked a little bit about those, kind of like navigating the system and their website. So parenting behavior challenges are often a component of raising a child with special needs. So how do you learn how to manage those behaviors? How do you learn where to go to find help for those? So again, learning as much as you can about cognitive. We talked a little bit before about comparing when the child's younger and wishing they had skills that they didn't. Sometimes when we get in a mindset where we're feeling very negative about our child, right? That self-compassion, that mindfulness skills and recognize what you're feeling, whether it's grief or I'm feeling how can I get to a better place and really focus on positive, breaking them smaller. Those challenges can be daunting around that. So knowing how to deal with those. When I first was learning about behavior over 30 years ago, we actually had a set of stickers. They were cognitive behavior management stickers. And my favorite one that has stuck with me all these years, often when I'm talking to families, talk about it. It's all on a scale, lower your expectations. So if we're in a really bad place and nothing is going right, nothing we're trying is working, to be able to step back and say, okay, what's going on here? Is it maybe I'm starting a new behavior plan and things are going to be rough for a while because I'm trying, but it's going to get better? Or is it, am I expecting too much? Do I need to kind of break it down so that it can be a positive growth both for your child and yourself?
Yeah, there's so much in what you just said that has just, got me really thinking. I think, first of all, I really just appreciated that you named that it's okay sometimes for parents to feel negatively toward their children.
Yeah.
I think talk about something that can make a parent feel really guilty, and feel negatively, but that's normal, especially when there's these challenging behaviors. And then I think also I really like what you said about just breaking down, kind of your expectations and trying to, it may not be let's get through the whole day or the whole week. Maybe it's like, how can I get through this next 10 minutes or this next hour? And so, really kind of, I think it's easy for people maybe to get overwhelmed when they're dealing with so many, whether it's challenging behaviors on top of, depending, I think we should say here, probably everybody who's paying attention knows it, but just to say that there's a real range of what parenting a child with special needs can look like. And so, you might have lots of different levels of needs, and that too can be very challenging.
And sometimes the needs are behavior management, but sometimes they're a medical condition that you can't get the answers for, and as a parent, you feel helpless and as you feel down. So it's that self-compassion, being able to recognize that, oh, this feels terrible. I can't find the answers I need. And from that, being able to focus on the strength. What does my child bring to our family? How has it helped shape us? And there are so many great thing. I can't imagine our life without our sons. And I mean, he really brought so much to our family. And my kids are so compassionate. Don't judge other people in the world. As parents, we get lots of practice with failing, right? That's whether your child's typically developing or has special challenging roles. So I have a little sign that hangs above my desk that says success is moving from failing to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
Right.
So if as parents we can be able to step back and say, okay, things are not good right now, what can I find that success positive?
Yeah, and really learning to kind of have a real positive self-talk seems like it would be helpful, and looking at, if you're going from appointment to appointment to appointment and not getting the answers that you need, that's frustrating, and it would be natural to be frustrated in that. But to even to say, well, we didn't get an answer here, but maybe we're one step closer to getting the answer that we needed because we ruled this one thing out, or really taking time to think about how, as a parent, even taking your child to an appointment is doing something for them, even if it doesn't end up with an answer. So, it's kind of like honoring the process versus the outcome, maybe, and learning to remind yourself as a parent.
I'm doing the best that I can.
Right.
I'm looking. And making sure then, again, those positive social connections. Who else do I know that has a child who's going through something? Right. And I am just a big believer in meeting other people and finding out about theirs. And let's shoot for others. Right?
In terms of, before we move on from some of the kind of challenges, I do want to, I would think that kind of financial challenges as well as time management, like if there's a lot of appointments and different therapies and things like that, which can challenge lots of different kinds of resources, time resources, energy, financial, so your job, time off, maybe. So how do you see that as being, do you see that as being a common experience?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we have so many parents that might have a career that would really keep them away from their family, that have chosen to kind of step back. And but all those parents got to do something. And often it's in the field of helping other parents and finding their fulfillment in a way that they hadn't planned on initially, but in a way it's
I know my sister is a special education teacher, and she's shared with me there's a poem called Holland.
Welcome
right?
to Holland.
Yeah, welcome to Holland. So for those who are listening who maybe who aren't familiar with that, and maybe Camilla can find it.
Yeah,
put the link in this chat room. But I know that that's something that brings a lot of parents with special needs, that you can find yourself in a good place, but it wasn't the place that you were expecting to be going. So, what you said about the career, it might mean that somebody's career might take a different path because maybe they need to step away from their career for a time, or find a career path that has more flexibility, for example, and working hours, or take a job that maybe has certain insurance benefits that they don't have. So, and navigating that. And I think kind of that brings it back to what you said about really the importance of understanding community resources and being able to connect with those.
Yeah.
And that kind of connects to the next question that I have for you, that we know that the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that on some level it can be maybe more difficult for families if they have a child who has special needs, and they might feel very disconnected from other families or excluded. I know before the program started, Nancy and I were talking about sometimes scouts or other activities that children may join in may not be as successful based on different aspects of the child's condition. So those are things that can make you feel excluded. And yet I'm sure that there's kind of a flip side, too, that when you really can find that village and people who really understand, they might even have stronger connections.
Yeah.
So what do you see as things that parents do or family members can do to really build that village?
And find that tribe and that village.
Yes.
That's right. We hear often, and I know it's happened with me, especially when our child is young, that our social support kind of changed, right? We have a different view of the world and what's important when our child has any sort of challenge. And a lot of times we don't want to deal with the trivial, what themes should we have, this or that parents can get wrapped up in. So we develop a new set of, you kind of find out who your friends are, right? You develop a new set of social supports that help you along. And and not isolate. Yeah. So that's a big challenge because you can be so exhausted from just caring for your child and your family that you pull back and you isolate yourself and then you get yourself.
That's so important. Yeah, that really not isolating and reaching out, making the extra effort to find help. I think in some ways we do live, because we live in such a technology-driven age today.
That's right.
There are a lot of benefits to that because you can sort of Google, say, are there support groups in my community, or even I'm familiar with some different faith organizations that have like special needs classrooms in their children's programming or children's ministry, which something even like that to find larger communities that sort of understand. But do you have any other thoughts about how to connect with support?
Sure. I mean, I think the technology and that we can connect, especially if you have a child with a more rare condition or rare disease, is phenomenal. You can find a group that you can connect with. But that's just one piece of it. If you just live in the tech world, you're not going to get that rich experience. To me, there's still nothing that replaces that face-to-face, that eye contact, that real human contact. So one of the things that Family Support Network has are parent mentors. So somebody else that has a child a little bit ahead of you who has a similar condition or dealing with similar circumstances, I think is so helpful. And like you said, parent groups, try out some of the and that way you get a wide range of perspectives and hear the story. Feel every time you have a chance.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, that just the real power that comes in telling a story. And then especially if you can hear from somebody that says, well, I've been there too, or I understand what that's like, or, my experience is a little bit different, but I've gone through some similar things. And I think that is, it seems like, working through some of the experiences of being included or just feeling like it's hard not to maybe make comparisons if you are around people who have typically developing children.
Really
That would be very difficult. But and it's okay. I think we often kind of through programs when we're talking about different topics or difficult experiences that sometimes friendships and certain support networks don't survive through major transitions or through experiences that that are different. Like you said, you find out who your true friends are. But that just is an opportunity to seek out those other types of connections, and they can be very meaningful.
Absolutely. One of the things that Family Support Network does, we just really believe in helping one family at a time. So it's not a cookie cutter. It's not, somebody wants to send them this. Have a true dialogue with each family. And so we encourage families on this road to raising a child with special needs to call us, to reach out. Even if you don't have a specific need, just call us, have that conversation. And as Lisa Schockler is our resource specialist, she's amazing. But as she has that conversation, or sometimes myself, as an older child with special needs, we remember, we know what's out there in the community. We're out there in the community. And the services are always changing. They're always growing. That's one thing for sure. But we not only connect families with programs that we offer, but a lot of other organizations. So there's so many opportunities to get involved and bring some richness and quality of life to your child.
And so let's talk a little bit about that too. So our audience for these boosters is somewhat local here for Guilford County, but also for people anywhere.
Yes.
So Or how would somebody in another community go about finding if there's an organization like yours?
Absolutely. I think there are parent-to-parent groups all over the nation. I know there are. It's an international group. So look up, go to the parent-to-parent website and find a local chapter, and they should be able to help you get it. There's local arcs everywhere, Down syndrome networks, autism societies. Find out what groups are in your local community and reach out to them and see what's going on.
And then I think also, too, can be working with other professionals. So if you're working with a doctor or a therapist, that it seems like family members could ask those professionals, too, for recommendations.
Absolutely.
I guess I'm thinking I used to be involved with a camp, an annual camp for children who had upper limb differences, so differences in their hands or their arms, part of a kind of larger special need. And a lot of times those families would talk about, it's called Hands to Love Camp, by the way, in Gainesville, out of Gainesville, Florida. But they really would have people come to the camp from all over because it's so much more rare condition.
Right.
And oftentimes the families would say in their home communities, they couldn't necessarily find anybody with a similar condition, but getting connected into that. And even though it would be just one weekend every year, but then they were building around kind of the social media and the sort of online community for these families, but just that impact of being around other people who understand too. So a real good mix of probably kind of local resources, also understanding national resources too. So one thing that I'm really excited to get your thoughts on, because I know you kind of touched on it a little bit already, is the importance of being an advocate for your child. And what does that look like in the day-to-day? So beyond kind of support types of networks, how do you kind of bring this advocate mentality to navigating the school system, to navigating healthcare resources, kind of these big systems where an individual child or family sometimes can feel overwhelmed or get a little bit lost?
Right. Well, I think becoming that advocate just kind of happens out of necessity. You just learn the ropes by kind of falling, by getting shot down, and enough times that you just say enough. And that mama bear fierceness that we have as moms or dads in wanting the best for our child kind of forces us out of our shell to look for other people who have advocated, to know the right questions to ask, to know how to push in a positive way to get what we need for our child, whether it's in the school setting or medical community or in the scout troop. Any way that when you see something that's unfair, how can I address this in a positive way that's going to bring about the change, not only for my child and my family, but those that come behind me. We're paving the way. We want fairness to keep evolving, right? We've come so far with understanding the needs of people with disabilities over the past few decades, but we have a long way to go. And so as parents, it's our job.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, because I think for a lot of people that could be a motivating factor to say, well, I noticed this thing, it's wrong, or it seems unfair. Should I just live with it, or should I push this issue? I imagine that's something that a lot of parents will struggle with.
It is a struggle.
Yeah.
There's that old adage like, choose your battles, right? You can't choose all of them all of the time. If you do, you're just going to burn out.
Yeah.
Right? So it's again pausing. What's the most important thing for me to deal with right now? How can I move forward with it?
And that would seem to be a real benefit also of being connected to these support networks too, because you could then, I'm sure your organization especially just has a real rich kind of institutional memory, let's say, that you could say, well, gosh, this other family 2 years ago that had the same issue, and here's what they were able to do, and here's how they did it. Or, they tried to push this issue and they could not get the resolution that they wanted. This may be a battle that isn't worth fighting.
Absolutely.
Because we know that the system's not going to budge on it.
It's not ready for it. It's not enough.
Yeah, or we know that there's a new person in there, so maybe this new person might have some more flexibility in their ways of thinking about this. Do you have any sort of, or what suggestions would you have in terms of kind of practical strategies? You know, we were talking before the program started about how we're both from up north, but we are here in the South, in North Carolina. Of course, Southerners love their phrases, so you know you can catch a fly with honey or vinegar. Right? I love the Southern expressions, but I always mess them up, and that's my totally Northern self coming out. But you know, if you are a parent and you are advocating for your child, and let's say you're not getting the answers that you need, when do you, how do you approach that? How do you know when to kind of, be sweet and be polite, and then how do you know when, like, sometimes, when you have to push? Yeah. I don't know, any practical strategies or things that maybe you've seen?
Sure. Well, we've talked a lot about it, is reaching out to your connections, those support you built, and finding out what did they do, what would they do, how would they do it. But also, our state does have some wonderful advocacy organizations out there. There's the EPA team. They have a parent hotline just about school advocacy. Get connected with the people in the hospitals that understand about advocacy, and find out what can you do. We can connect to. Yeah, we serve over 500 families in the church. We've been around over 30 years. We've heard a lot of stories.
Right, sure.
And gosh, the courage and the obstacles that so many of our families have fought and advocated for, those are things that can help in the battle. So reach out to your connections.
Yeah. And I think too, just thinking about, kind of other types of advocacy that I've been involved in, and also just working in a system like a university. Sometimes that you need to really understand what the proper channels are, chains of command,
like absolutely.
If you have a concern,
the laws,
right?
The
laws, and kind of understand that, because sometimes you can really backfire or put a lot of energy into advocating for a change when you're just not even going to the right person, or the right source. And sometimes that can be frustrating, right? Because you feel like you have to maybe jump through some hoops to do that. But that is, I think I really like your recommendation of reaching out to some of the state advocacy organizations, or even just people maybe informally, but who've got some experience with that, because it helps you to understand what those channels are. And knowing what your rights are from the legal standpoint too would be really important too. Just offhand, and if you don't know at this time, but do you know of are there any really good websites that would have information about the laws in this area?
My recommendation would be, if it's a school advocacy issue,
ECAC, what does that stand for?
You can put that in the chat room.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's great. So, because it's always important to know and understand.
Right.
Those things.
And you can call us as well. We can often help with that, but often we will guide parents
as well. Oh, that's good. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about kind of family dynamics for a few minutes, because obviously that can be both a positive and a challenge. So let's first talk about spousal partner relationships, and then talk about sibling issues. So to kind of focus first on the spousal issues, I have definitely heard, probably more maybe anecdotally, but that a lot of times marriages really struggle when there's a child with special needs, and in fact that the risk of divorce can potentially be higher, or the risk of divorce can be higher. So what are some things that are either, possibly red flags that if spouses or partners are kind of, on a real, maybe headed for trouble, let's say, and then what would be some suggestions for keeping a strong relationship?
Sure. I would say if one parent is really doing everything, and the other is kind of just an observer, that's a red flag right there. Or one of the parents is just so overwhelmed and struggling with difficult emotions all of the time. On the other hand, I don't think it's a terrible, now this is my personal thought. I don't think it's terrible if in parenting, I don't think there's just one right way, right? So I think that the parents can have different styles and a good understanding that in the end, they're going to right? Less rigid. One parent might rely more on rules, and the other one might be more fun-loving, more playful. And in the end, that can strengthen your relationship and help kind of equalize it. So with our home situation, that's kind of the way. I'm more like, well, let's follow this behavior plan, and my husband's more rough and tumble play.
Yeah.
And now that our kids are grown, I think there's a lot of beauty in that.
Especially, it sounds like kind of accepting differences and different styles is really important. As in any relationship, that's important, but especially when there are maybe ongoing kind of stressors that can be coming up, that really being intentional about having that appreciation for the differences and say, well, maybe my partner would handle this very differently than I would, but maybe I can be open to the fact that, that maybe there's a need for some of that.
That's right. That's right. You can't always do that.
Yeah.
But let's go for that now.
And I would think too, in addition to parenting styles, but also just giving each other space to maybe have different timelines for acceptance, for the grieving process. I think that can be a real challenge when it's like, I've accepted this, you're still struggling with this, or vice versa, or, at different times can probably bring up different experiences of grief. And I think sometimes partners can really get, separated as their relationships can really start to grow apart. They're expecting each other to be right at the same feelings and reactions to what they're going through.
Yeah. I have a very good friend who just reminded me that they had a child with significant medical challenge. And she always said that getting that diagnosis was like you're riding along in the car, right? Everything's going fine. Getting a terrible wreck. And you're thrown in a ditch on one side of the road. And your spouse is thrown in a ditch on the other. And try as you might to get to each other. It's just so difficult because you're struggling with your own grief. Yeah, to recognize the power of that.
That's a very powerful metaphor because it helps to say they're both, in that metaphor, they're both in the ditch, right? They're both struggling. But I think people don't handle struggles in the same way. And if people can kind of honor those differences, then that would be something. I think too, just in terms of and hearing, what your thoughts are too, I would be curious to hear too, but, taking time for the relationship, that's important for all parents, but taking time for that date night.
I love what you all do that.
Oh, okay.
I have done the kayaking.
Yeah.
I love all of that. Yeah. So taking time for each other.
Intentionally, and even kind of along the lines of what we do with the Healthy Relationships Initiative. Of course, it doesn't just have to be through our Healthy Relationships resources, although definitely check out our website for those resources, especially our online learning center. We've got programs for couples on parenting and navigating financial issues that might be relevant. But, really being intentional, if you know that your relationship is going to be kind of under that pressure or under stress, or if you know you're going to be kind of going through something that's going to have you on two sides of the road, going with your friend's metaphor, build your relationship skills. Make sure you want to have the best communication skills that you can have, conflict management skills, ways to make time for the relationship, practicing self-care for yourself, because you're going to need to kind of level up your skills to be able to keep pace with the level of challenges.
And it goes back to the three things, right? You're working on your relationship with each other, so that positive social support, and then the education, learning. What is it going to take for us to be stronger? Yeah, and I think you both have to learn together, right? And put the effort into it. Because you're right.
And as someone with a background in counseling too, I think having a counselor and being willing to reach out for counseling too,
Absolutely.
when you need it, and maybe not waiting. You know, a lot of couples, not just parents with special needs, but a lot of couples wait way too long. They have problems for years before they finally make that call and reach out for help. And especially, again, if you're kind of in a high-stress situation, reaching out for that
one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the financial aspect. I think we are.
Oh, well, you are just so sweet. We
I love it.
appreciate it. So, kind of similar, I guess, because it's family dynamic. And I guess I will say, I don't know if you want to add anything further to siblings, but single parents, too, can be parents of children with special needs.
Sure.
And I think in many ways, a lot of the similar things that we've been talking about, but I think in those cases, especially really connecting to those sources of support.
Right. What is your support?
Yeah. And building up those resources, practicing a lot of self-care. It might be a date night with yourself and making sure that you're taking time, you know, for yourself too. So just wanted to make sure we put that plug out there too, because we know that happens too. So, so let's talk a little bit though about siblings.
One of my favorite topics.
Yes, because we know you have. Maybe you could share a little bit more about the Sib Club program, and then as a kind of segue to share some about what you see as some of the common experiences of siblings of a child with special needs, and then what parents can do to support those children too.
Sure. So, well, first of all, I always love our Sib Club program. I think it's one of the best things that we do and that we offer. Such a privilege to work with that group of kids. We had a similar program for many years, well over 50 years, called Sib Shop, and that's a national sibling support program, which I absolutely love running, but it just got to be too much for the size of our organization. So we took a little break for a few years, but then we realized there's nobody out there meeting the needs of that population. Got to figure out how to get it back in place. So through the Future Fund last year, we got some funding and got it rolling again, and it's just been wonderful. But it's a place for kids to mostly share the joys. I mean, of course, they all love their siblings, right? We even talk to families who say, well, children do not attend, and we recommend that, oh, no, my child loves their siblings. Yeah, I get that. Do you love your child? No, yeah, of course I love my child. Would you like to not know anybody else who is a parent of a child with special needs? That doesn't mean you don't love your children because you're looking for those connections with other people who get it. Just another added enhancement. So they might be in their school setting, in their church setting, in scouting or other extracurriculars. They might not know anybody else that has it. And so coming together and knowing that every single person in that room has a brother or sister with special needs is so empowering. Number one, so that's those positive social supports right there, right? It gives them a chance to share those joys with other people who get it, and to share some of the challenges. I mean, a lot of the children, there's some real fear and anxiety if their sibling gets lost, ambulances come to their house, if their siblings have some behaviors that might be runners and safety of the those are real feelings that need to be dealt with and there'll be dialogue along with the joy. And then also the unfairness of the world, right? Their friends comment or bringing somebody to the house might feel awkward and they don't like the way some of their peers act. So a place to work all that out, but then again, something really special.
And so one other kind of question I have about that is when you hear from these siblings in these programs, I guess I'm having a hard time to put my finger on exactly how I want to say this, so bear with me while I try to formulate my thought while I'm thinking of it, but it would seem like a lot of those siblings might feel uncomfortable expressing their needs or their feelings about their experiences to their parents.
Yeah, very, very good point. Especially if a family's at a point where they're under a lot of stress and kids are so receptive, right? so they can sense that. And a lot of times they don't want to add their parents' level of stress. So having a place where they can come like Sip Club, they can ask the question. And I can like that, but they're reluctant to ask. Don't want to put pressure on them, want to ask them questions. And then the other part of that is if that sibling is struggling with something on their own that has nothing to do with their sibling, sometimes they're reluctant to share that with them. Just because, again, they feel like their parents are.
Yeah, so it sounds like a really good practical suggestion too for parents might be to just make sure you're checking in with your child and have that understanding that they may not be bringing concerns, whether it's about their sibling or something totally not related to the child that they may not want to feel like a burden or add that stress.
Some of the kids too, we find most of the time they grow up to be these wonderful, well-rounded, non-judgmental, very accepting adults. But as younger children, sometimes they feel like they need to, right? And so they're the overachievers, those type A's, and that brings its own set of challenges with especially in life. So as a parent, what can you do if your child's involved in a program if it's in your community? But have those date nights with your child, your typically developing child. Have that open communication where you're there. Verbalize that they can talk to you about anything. And you're asking them what's bothering them, what's on in your world right now.
Yeah, very important.
On the Family Support Network website, we've got a great list of resources. We did a whole month focus on siblings last month, and so we've got some really great articles with tips in there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that that resource. I think we have a question come in.
Yes, we do, and it's right in line with what you've been discussing in terms of siblings. How do you recommend dealing with sibling jealousy when one child has special needs and the other does not? In particular, I am referring to children who feel left out because they might receive less attention than their other siblings with special needs.
Yes, that's a very common concern of parents, especially if the children are younger, we find, and the child with special needs might have a lot of appointments or a lot of therapy, or they get a lot of positive attention, and that typically developing child kind of feels left out. So, again, looking at the resources on the website, getting them involved, having some special time just with them. But I think what we found is as the children get older, the shoe kind of, the whole situation takes a turn. So when they're younger, many times they feel left out. As they get older, they struggle with, okay, now I'm driving, I'm getting to dates, I'm getting invited to parties. And so they see I'm doing a lot more than my siblings especially. So it just changes, and they have to learn how to process those feelings and be okay with it.
And it sounds like kind of along the same lines, I think parents always need to create space for their children to talk about their feelings. And so, no, it's okay if you feel jealous. I understand that you might feel jealous right now, or I understand that you might feel like you're not getting as much attention, you feel overlooked right now.
How can we fix it?
How can we fix it? Or let's talk through that, and just creating that space for those conversations. But it's normal, just like in typically developing children and their sibling rivalries too. That's always as normal.
I mean, learning how to express our emotions and identify them. That's key to that happy life.
So let's see. We're down to about our last 10 minutes. So what do you think, what do you most wish that people knew about families raising a child with special needs?
Oh, let's see. I know I wrote about that, but really that we're not chosen, right? We're not chosen. We're not special. We don't have any special skills or superpowers. We can learn them, and we just love our kids, and we don't want them to be excluded. So we want them to grow up in a world where they're included and they have opportunities, and that they can have a happy and productive life no matter what. I think that's the bottom line. and all families.
Right, and so the kind of their similar desires as parents, to any parent, they always like their child to do the best they can and reach their potential, but there might be a need for some extra support or extra, help in making sure that the children especially don't feel excluded.
Yeah, I mean, right. And as adults, it might not look like the same world as with your typical healthy child. They might not ever live on their own. They might not ever be able to have a job, but they can have a meaningful life, and their life can bring meaning to others, and that their life.
And we've touched on this kind of indirectly as we've gone throughout our conversation today, but what do you see as some of the real strengths for parents? I know you said they're not superheroes. They might become superheroes in the process, or they aren't kind of maybe naturally equipped with some superpowers that they might develop over time. But what do you really see as some of the strengths and the, just the common sort of positive qualities? Yeah, what can come out of the experience? That's a good way to put it.
I would say that we value our children. We don't ever make them just, we have a different outlook on it's okay if you're different. And my life is okay the way it is, even if it's not perfect, my child's not going to be Ivy. That you develop a new way of looking at the world, knowing what matters, what really matters, what really counts. It's not your degree and how much money you make. It's that it can be kind to all the different types of situations.
Yeah, so just a lot more appreciation for differences of all kinds, and a greater just appreciation for the things that really truly matter in life. And sometimes I think all of us can lose sight of that in different ways. But having the experience of raising a child with special needs is something that just sort of forces you to adapt and develop that perspective over time.
And it gives you the courage also to not be afraid to interact with somebody who's different than you.
Right.
And that brings such rich my life and the connections I've made with other families and other young adults and children with special needs are nothing short of imagine that.
That's really neat. Well, do you have anything else? I know you have a lot of notes, and I don't. If you had any specific points that we didn't cover,
I think we kind of touched on everything. I want parents to know in the end that you don't have to be perfect all of the time. It's not possible.
Right.
We're human. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to have hard days, and don't run yourself. Show yourself the same compassion and kindness that you do for the other people that matter.
Yeah. I think that's true. That's one thing, again, we've kind of touched on somewhat more indirectly, but really just the need for a lot of self-compassion, self-care, go easy on yourself, give yourself lots of grace and patience to say, man, I did not handle that situation as I would have liked to, but I can try again tomorrow. The next time something comes up, what can I learn from it? And you don't have to beat yourself up over things like that. That remember that you're human, that you're going to have those real emotions, the grief, the sadness, the frustration, the negativity or anger towards your child or towards your circumstances, but just kind of take it a step at a time and, and just give yourself that space, room to grow as well. And I think all parents need that, but especially if you are facing some of those challenges and, just stretch to the limit by appointments and financial challenges and all those sorts of things that can come up.
Right, we get so wrapped up in everything that's happening that we forget to stop and pause. Where am I now? And if you say, I'm in a good place, this feels good, what's making it feel good? Or, I'm in a bad place. Why am I here? This is hard. You can tell yourself and acknowledge, yeah, this is hard. And
that is such a good point to be able to say, it's hard. What I'm doing is hard, and it's okay if I'm not doing it perfectly. Do you have any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
So I really enjoyed it though. It was really fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated all of your insights today, and I think that that a lot of people will really benefit from the points that you shared today. So just as we wrap up, again, Camilla probably already has posted the link for the feedback form. So please take a moment before you sign off to complete that. And then our next relationship booster will be Friday, February 21st, and the topic for that one is pretty different from our topic for today's program, but it's another one that's sure to be a really interesting discussion. So the topic of that one will be rebuilding after an affair. So we thank you so much for being here with us, and we hope that we'll see you again in a future relationship